In this tutorial, I'm going to explain how you can paint a watercolor background from an old Disney movie in Procreate. Welcome to Stayf Draws. I'm Stayf, a Dutch illustrator and animator, and I really love the old watercolor backgrounds from Disney movies. And in this video, I'm going to paint a background from an old movie which is called The Wise Little Hen. The Wise Little Hen was the first movie Donald Duck made his debut in. And I'm going to use the custom brushes, and I'll leave a link in the description box down below. They're available on my Gumroad. So let's get started. I've always been really in love with the old backgrounds of Disney movies, and they started doing these watercolor backgrounds in the early days. I really like, the way this is painted. It's very subtle, and I already painted this image in another app, which is the Adobe app, Adobe Sketch. And I found a brush that someone else made, and I will show you a link to the video that I painted everything on the iPad, and I did this background. Here's another sample of a Disney background, and you still can see the pencils, because they first would do the pencil, the layout, and then they would paint the background. I really like this style of painting, and I just wanted to figure out if I could do the same in Procreate. So I created a watercolor brush set, and I'll leave a link in the description box down below. And I'm just going to show you how I paint with it. And these are just some of the samples of the old movies, and these are old backgrounds. And they're just beautiful. So really nice washes. And they also came back to doing watercolors, because watercolors take a long time to paint. And for Lilo and Stitch, they went back. They wanted to recreate the watercolor backgrounds of the early days, and these are just wonderful backgrounds from Lilo and Stitch, and everything was done in watercolor. And of course, the backgrounds of Snow White were also painted in watercolors, and they're just beautiful backgrounds. And here you still can see the paper. And Disney had some, great artists that worked for him, because it was in the Depression, so he could get any artist to work for Disney. They're just wonderful backgrounds. So I wanted to find out if I could do the same on the iPad, and I created a brush set which is called the Stayf Procreate Watercolor Set, and it also comes with some watercolor papers as well. I'll leave a link in the description box down below. It's available on my Gumroad. So I painted this background in Procreate using the watercolor set, and the main brush I use is the Stayf Water Round, and I painted this, and I'm just going to show you the setup. So on top there is the paper, and I have locked it, and you can lock a layer when you swipe from right to left. You can lock and unlock it. I do that because sometimes you just paint on it by mistake, and you don't want to mess with the paper structure. It's very light, but it gives you a nice watercolor feel. Then I have the sketch, and I'm just going to select the sketch. It's a very simple background. and I've locked that as well. Then I first painted the sky, and it's, you know, with watercolors, you know, you have to build up your colors. And then the rest of the background. And I also made a separate layer with the shades, so you can give it a little bit more of contrast. With watercolor, you build up your painting, and in a transparent way. And the interesting thing about, you know, watercolors, why they're so special, is because you use the lightness of the paper to make it shine. And the same applies for working on an iPad, because it's built up from light. So you just build up your painting, and of course this is a time lapse, but you have to slowly build up your color. So first do a layer of paint and then paint over it again, and keep repeating it until you have the right color. The next painting I did was this one, and that's also built up in a similar way. So there's the paper on top. There's also a noise layer, because when you look at the old background paintings, and there were original art pieces, the paper is, you know, because it's old, it became a little bit more yellow. So with the noise layer and also set to multiply, I, you know, recreated a little bit of the old wear of the original background. Then there's the sketch layer. And these were layouts, because first they made a sketch, and then they made the outline of the sketch. They traced that onto watercolor paper. And this is how a background artist would start a background at Disney. So I did it on one layer with some washes, and I'll just go over it. I have some time lapses of the paintings I did. So you can create some nice washes with, you know, the Stayf Water Brown. I sometimes use the other brushes, but the Stayf Water Brown is the main brush I paint everything with. And then I had the shade layer set to multiply, and with the shade, you know, you can, you know, make some of the values a little bit stronger. And I also had a lighten layer, and which is set to overlay. You can see the difference, especially in the tree. And I'm still working on this piece. I already painted this in Adobe Photoshop Sketch. I'm not using these apps anymore, because Adobe Photoshop Sketch and Adobe Illustrator Draw will be combined into Fresco, because they are not developing the apps anymore. So now you can do everything in Adobe Fresco, but I prefer to work in Procreate. And I'm still working on this image. So there's the paper structure. I made also some swatches just for the colors. There's the sketch, and there's just one layer I'm, you know, painting in. So in this way you can paint watercolor paintings in a Disney style. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, because each time I upload a new video, you get a notification. Drawing is fun, and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!